Palmer. So it is now 2025, and in this past year, you started this podcast, the process. So let's reflect on 2024 a little bit, and then let's dive into what's to come in 2025. So great question, but I did start my own podcast, the process, and it's been amazing. So this is episode 6. We're going on to, and so 2024, I would say, was easily the best year of my life because just growth, fulfillment, and it was the year I gave my life to Christ. So I was saved in 2023, but I want to make it kind of known that there's a difference between when you were saved, but when you actually give your life to Christ. So I've talked about this with multiple people lately, but it's when I really decided that I'm going to read the word every day. I'm going to live as closely and try to live like Christ. Never going to get there, but obviously trying my best to love others, trying my best to withstand from sin. So being able to do that has just been transformative. On top of that, so graduated in May from the University of Alabama, got a job as a financial analyst, which I'm sure many of you already know. But it's been, came down here, really didn't like it. It was the path that everyone told me to take. You heard through school, if you do finance, get a finance job. If you do this. But you don't really hear of many other options. So moved to Tampa, surrounded myself with like-minded people, and all of a sudden, I've been wanting to post content again. I wanted to do 75 Hard for a while, so 2 birds with 1 stone. So I started 75 Hard, found a home church at Radiant, and through 75 Hard, quit drinking, and then started surrounding myself with more like-minded people. And so those 3 factors were huge in the transformation of me, and also got me closer to Christ just through reading the word every day, along with all of that, reading the word, praying, and really having a home church and a community. So I can say it was my best year yet. And so I'm excited for what's to come in 2025, which we're going to dive into. And so obviously 2025 is coming up. We're in it. So I know it's your birthday, January 6th. And so just in the last year, so you've been 22 years old, but now you're turning 23. And also the podcast is going on to, this is episode 6. But what's the plan? What's coming with the process? Obviously, episodes are every week, Monday at 8 a.m., but can we see that continuing through? Are there going to be seasons? Talk more about where the process is going, what your personal goals are on 2025, and maybe just give me a brief reflection on 2024 as well, kind of 3 lessons that you learned at 22 years old in 2024. As this goes out, it'll be your birthday. So January 6th, you'll be turning 23. So give me those 3 lessons, and then maybe 3 books that you were able to read that were able to influence you this year that you feel like the audience might take some great information from and can transform kind of their life and help them grow this year. So we'll dive into 2024 reflections in a second, but obviously 2025. So what's to come with the process? As I was doing a lot of reflecting on what I wanted to go to. So right now we're posting every Monday at 8 a.m. once a week. But actually starting beginning of February, I'll be posting twice a week, 2 episodes a week, Monday at 8 a.m. to start the week off right. People going to work, people getting just that Monday motivation, but then also Friday at 5 p.m. So kicking off the weekend, start the weekend with a little bit of the process, get locked in, and then go knock out the weekends, because the weekends, I feel like no matter what you're doing, is your chance to just get ahead of the rest of the people, and not in a certain way where you just put your head down, you get up, you go for a run on Saturday morning, you're able to knock out those productive activities, and then you can go enjoy your weekend, do whatever. So that's the schedule update. But let's dive into, 100 episodes. That's the goal. And 2 of the episodes I want to be my Dream 100 guests. So I've kind of done some reflecting, and I'm making a Dream 100 guest list. Those episodes will be very valuable to me, to the audience, and to hopefully the guest as well. I'm super excited for these people, and my goal is to have 2 of them on, one being episode 50 and one being episode 100 for this year. And so I'll complete those 100 episodes before the end of the year. And then another personal goal, as Radiant Church is doing a Bible in a year thing. So my goal is to read through the Bible in the year chronologically on the Bible app. So if you're looking to do that, go to the Bible app. They got a bunch of different plans. You can pick the best one for you and get an accountability partner. Always helps with everything. So looking to do that, but then also read front to back with my physical copy of my Bible. And I think that's really good, getting rooted in the Word, kind of highlighting things, underlining things. And so that's another one of my goals. And then with the process as well, we've only had in-studio shoots so far, but we're going to be taking this to other places. We're going to be moving the equipment with me to get certain guests who probably can't come to Tampa, but we're going to be taking our tripods, our cameras, our mics, our audio interface, going to different places, getting those guests at different locations. And then last thing we'll be involving too, and to get guests all around the world, is remotely. So we'll be figuring that out. We'll be evolving there. And then I actually just added my first member to the Process Podcast team, Justin Banks. So shout out Justin. Super excited to see how his position evolves. It's my first time having someone on a team, so I don't know what it's going to look like exactly. I do know what I want. So he's going to be managing my social medias, helping me create and post short form content, and that way I can bring some new short form content personally. So that's something I'm excited for, is the short form content side of things. You should be seeing something new come up in the next month or so. And lastly, one thing I'm extremely happy and grateful about is just the studio, man. It's turned out so well. As you can probably tell behind you, you added a new addition. It's a picture frame of a path in a bamboo forest, and it says growth. There are no great limits to growth, because there are no limits of human intelligence, imagination, and wonder. And I think it just fits the studio so well. So actually keep in mind that growth, because that might come back a little bit later. So but yeah, so just thankful, so grateful and fortunate that I was able to build this studio, from zero, from my bedroom. My bed was in here, and now it's just completely transformed with my desk in the side corner. I don't do a ton of work there. I like going to coffee shops. But yeah, all right, well, now that we got a little high level of where the process is going in 2025, you shared a few goals as well. Let's reflect on 2024. So you're 22 years old, and now you're turning 23 today. What were the top 3 lessons you took from this last year? And just kind of give the audience your perspective on what those things were, what you learned from those lessons, and kind of some of the backstory behind them. Yeah, so the first lesson I learned in 2024 is that you're not going to be fulfilled by worldly desires. The only way you're going to be fulfilled is through a relationship with Jesus. And so I started out this year back at the University of Alabama. And don't get me wrong, I don't regret anything I've ever done. I'm just not proud of everything that I've done in the past. And I think that's critical to know, because why would you regret things? Because it makes you the person you are. So it made me the person I am. I learned lessons from it. God taught me a lot of things through it. But, I was so wrapped up in these worldly things at Alabama. It was drinking, it was going out, the hookup culture in a sense. And so those things just were not fulfilling. They're the things that everyone in the world tells you to chase, the worldly desires, but they're not fulfilling. And so, like I said, when I gave my life to Christ, when I came to Tampa, I cut out almost all of those worldly things. I quit drinking for 75 hard. I've been working super diligently to, cut out lust of any sort. And so, that's one of the biggest lessons I've learned is, being at Alabama, completely flipping the switch and kind of getting rid of as much of that sin as possible and living in a more moral, with my relationship with Jesus, trying to develop that has been so fulfilling, man. And some people might look at me and say how you don't have any fun, you don't go out, you don't do this. And right now it's, I don't know, 7:30 p.m. and we're filming this podcast, and this is fun, man. This is fun. And then I go and get to edit it after this or tomorrow, and this is fun. The other thing that's fun is getting up and grabbing, going and getting a run in the morning with someone. Going getting a run, grabbing a coffee after, or going to get a lift. And I just had a lift with Zach today, who's going to be the podcast episode next week, I think, right? So that was an amazing lift. Getting to have those conversations, that is my fun. And I don't think that's what people don't get is when they're like, oh, you don't have any fun, you don't go out. This is fun. And so that's lesson 1. Lesson 2, which I learned from this year, is that the only way you're going to attract the people that God has planned for your life is by being authentically you. If you're not authentically you, you are not going to attract the people God has planned to put in your life into your life, because you're not being you. And so there's so many instances of this, but it took a long time for me to develop to this person that can put out a podcast, that can make content and not care what others think, that can be the person I am today. But I would say, like, you're always going to maybe somewhat care what people think a little bit, like a smidge, but that's not a bad thing. But you really can't let others' opinions dictate your life or try to play, like, not be authentically you. At the end of the day, people are going to have an opinion about you either way, what you do. So why not just be authentically you? So that's what I've learned is when you're not fully yourself, you don't attract the people into your life that are meant to be there. And I just want to make that known. So there's so many instances that I can reflect from the past couple of years actually on this lesson. And so one thing is I wore like gym clothes through school. And so everyone, when I was in a fraternity, when I was wearing Young LA, Gymshark, whatever, would give me crap about it. They would be like, oh, Mr. Young LA, Mr. whatever. And so for a while, when I was like younger, freshman, sophomore of college, it like bothered me. It was like, because people could tell it bothered me slightly. I didn't really say anything. But then I think when the switch flipped and when I don't think anyone meant anything too bad about it, it was just, joking, whatever. I didn't really care too much, but it did kind of dig into me. But learning through that, and then when I became full, had that summer where I was going through things, I was saved, and I reflected on everything in like the past when I was able to be authentically me. Now when I came back to school and I was wearing Young LA or whatever, and someone was like, oh, like, you want to be sponsored? I'd be like, yeah, that'd be sick. Like, I'd love to be sponsored. And then when you start to act like that and you're your authentic self, people respect it. People respect the person you are, that you're so grounded in the things that you're striving for, that now they're going to they're going to respect that person. They're not going to keep poking fun, or they might, but it's just like in a much better way because you're just being you. So I would say like that aspect of things. And one thing I also like watching is anime. So like getting in the gym, getting whatever. Anime is a great thing to watch, or like I've enjoyed watching. And so for the longest time, I would like not tell anyone. But at this point, I don't really care because like, who cares? Why would anyone? I don't really care what other people think. And so if someone doesn't like me for that, that's just part of. I mean, I don't know. I guess they got a problem with it. But yeah, so that's lesson 2. Be yourself, because that's going to attract the people in your life that are meant to be there. So lesson 3, and man, have I talked about this lesson a lot. There's not only one path. You do not need to take the path that everyone tells you to take. And man, I just want to say there is so much out there other than just getting your finance degree or getting your biology degree or whatever degree you get and then going to get a finance job. Just like anything you're good at, you can make money doing. And I don't think that's what people don't get is you can literally sell a product or a service that relates to your skills, to your passions. And so like you got to figure out you got to gain the wisdom, gain the knowledge. And sometimes it takes doubling up with something you don't like, with something you do like, or maybe, you're working that 9 to 5. But you work the weekends, you work the nights, but you got to grind and you got to work towards that passion. And so I just want to say that it's like not the path that everyone tells you have to take. And so when I ended up quitting my job this year, I became a server assistant, and God has been so good that he's blessed me in a position that I'm able to make ends meet every week and also do this thing I love, this thing that he's called me to, talk to people and just be here and hopefully just change one person's life, give one person value. One of these lessons maybe someone could implement into 2025. Man, that's my goal. So it's just so blessed. I'm so blessed, man, and so thankful for that. But that's the lesson I would say. Just don't close your mind when you're in high school, when you're in college, because that's what everyone thinks the same. And coming to Tampa and surrounding myself with like-minded people, it opened up my eyes to really you can make money in any sort of way. Just do something you love. Do something you're really trying to influence people, have value, give value to people. So that wraps up my 3 lessons for this year. Wow. Those are some pretty good lessons, I would say. I hope maybe the guests can get some value out of those and maybe start to implement them. But they're really just like mindset shifts. At the end of the day, I think it's making decisions. It's making decisions to be authentically you. Making decisions to, like the things you like without being, scared to like those things or scared to be judged by the people in your life. Because at the end of the day, man, if they're going to judge you for the person you are, why, like you said, why would you want them in your life? You don't. You really don't. So thank you for those 3 lessons. And as I've watched some of your short form content, I saw some of your 75 hard stuff. But you've read some books. I think you told me you weren't a huge reader before. What kind of got you into reading books this year? And what are the 3 books that have kind of changed or influenced you and what you would recommend to the audience for this upcoming year? Yeah, so like you said, reading's been really big. I was never a huge reader. I honestly used to say I'm a bad reader. I'm not good at reading. I read slow. But those are all those limiting beliefs. Those are those negative things. And so it really took something, like it took that 75 hard challenge to change that framework. And I actually started enjoying reading and reading books every day, 10 pages at least, but now it turned into 20 pages and 25 pages. And so I really just started liking it. I realized how much knowledge and wisdom were in it. And so recently I haven't been reading as many nonfiction books. I've been reading the Word a lot. So that's where my focus has been. But yeah, as you said, I have read a good bit of books, and I have three books that I do want to recommend to the audience that I think they could take some great value from. So the first being Hero on a Mission. I was introduced to this book by Jordan in one of my small groups. Jordan will be on hopefully in the next few weeks. But Hero on a Mission is by Donald Miller, and it's a book that dives into creating a vision for your life. So it talks about 4 types of people: victims, villains, heroes, and guides. And so we want to be heroes and guides. Excuse me. So we want to be heroes and guides. Those are the 2 things we want to aim to be. And so kind of the book goes about that framework, telling us we have agency, we control our decisions, we like to look at life in an internal focus of control that we control, focus on the things that we can control, the habits we implement, the when we wake up, that kind of thing, and moving towards something. And so he talks a lot about narrative traction. And so it's an exercise book. So you go and do exercises, and you do 3 vision plans, 3 goals, and a eulogy. So you write your eulogy to be who are the person you want to be. You read that eulogy every day or every week or whenever you can to get yourself to read that about who the person you're going to become is. And then on top of that, you do a 1 year, 5 year, 10-year vision. So in these visions, you kind of write some different things. You name it as a movie title. You put career goals, health goals, relationship goals, family goals, and then things you do, things you don't do. And so each one of those, it's a really good exercise. I would really recommend it because it helps you get a vision for your life. It helps you get that narrative traction of what you're working towards, what's important to you. And then the last book, I will say, is Rebel by Graham Cochran. So also someone I really want to have on this podcast, someone who, he went through an 8-week series at our men's business leaders group at Radiant, and it was amazing. The book's great. It's an easy read, great read, and really life-changing. So it helps you resolve the dream again. You get to write down your dreams, know what you're working towards, that kind of thing. You address limiting beliefs, and then you do a couple other exercises. You go through your ideal day in 3 years. You go through ideal, that kind of thing, like how your life's going in 3 years. And so there's all these different exercises, and I would say it's another one that helps you dream, helps you figure out who you are, like what you're aspiring to. So those 3 books, I would say, were the most influential to me. The last one being Be Useful, 7 Tools of Life by Arnold. So that one's amazing. I read it actually pretty much beginning of 75 Hard, so I don't remember too much of it, but I do remember it talks about 3 or 4 different really influential things, talking about being a self-made man. And how when someone said, Arnold, you're a self-made man, he said, what do you mean I'm a self-made man? I'm the furthest thing from it. I got sponsored to come over here. Someone helped me get in the movie industry. Someone helped me get into politics. And he's like, I don't want to be a self-made man because then I did it alone. And doing something alone, what's the fun in doing something alone? So I think that's huge, and something I've been building off of the last year, especially the end of this last year, is I'm not a self-made man. I'm taking these opportunities of help when God provides me with opportunities. But on top of that, I don't want to do it myself. That's lonely, man. I want to do it it's like Brad Pitt said it. It was like, everyone says, don't worry about the destination, worry on the journey. But man, it's not the journey, it's the company. Focus on the company. So I think that was huge. He talks about a lot of great stuff in that book. So those are the top 3 books I would recommend for you to read in 2025. Okay. Yeah, those sound like some great books. So audience, if you hear that and you want to check one of those out, they might be great to check out. But last kind of thing for episode 6, I appreciate you coming on today and kind of sharing some reflections and some, outlook on 2025. But, I've heard this thing. I actually was with Zach today, and he had mentioned, a word of the year. And so I wanted to know if you had been thinking at all about a word of the year. Yeah, so I actually have been thinking about this today a lot because Zach had kind of mentioned that earlier just after our lift. He was saying, I think it was Stephen Furtlick talks about the word of the day. Maybe he has one for his church, but I was like, I kind of do want that direction, that word that I go back to time and time again. And like I said earlier, I foreshadowed a little bit. But after reflecting, I think it was in the shower. I always can get some great thoughts in the shower thoughts, whatever it was. But I did some deep reflection, like what word do I want to navigate this 2025? What word kind of encompasses what I want? What word is going to just direct me? And so there's a lot of great words, but growth. Growth is the word of the year, word of 2025 for me. I think it can just sum up everything in one, right? What the process is about is growing, adding value and influence to others, growing as a person, growing with my relationship in Christ, growing my relationship with Jesus. So it encompasses it all, growing as someone who can love others better, growing just in all aspects of life. And I think it's when it hit me in the head and it hit me that it was on my wall, on the podcast studio wall, it was just perfect. So I'm super excited. So I kind of challenge you right now, audience, if you're watching, it's January 6th, 6 days later, 6 days after the start of the year. But if you haven't yet, I think this is going to be a powerful exercise for me this year, having that word of the year, something I'm going to reflect on, go over kind of daily. Maybe you forget it, but you always kind of come back to it. So take a minute, pause this episode, and just maybe reflect for 5-10 minutes. Think about last year. I sat down and I really took an hour and a half after the new year hit to reflect on last year, man. I'm just very grateful for where I'm at, the opportunities that God has provided me with, that I'm in Tampa, and just everything that's happened. I was just reflecting on how much stuff has changed, all these things that are moving so quick in this last year. So take this time, 5 minutes, pause it, reflect a little bit on last year, look at some goals, and then I would recommend, if you want to get deeper into goal setting exercises, Rebel, and Hero on a Mission. But yeah, find that word. What's that word that you're tired one day, you don't feel like doing something, you want to do, and it's gonna make you kind of get there, get down, do that work, and then feel good, because you got to have that word that's going to push you. So I've never done it before. So this is kind of a test to see how the word of the year, it can't be a bad thing. It's 100% going to be a good thing. But landing on growth, I just felt like it encompassed everything. It's on my wall now. I'm reading it right now. There are no great limits to growth because there are no limits of human intelligence, imagination, and wonder. And, through my relationship with Jesus, there really are no limits. There's really nothing stopping us. We can do so much through the vision that God has planned for us. So super excited for 2025. And yeah, thank you for having me on episode 6. Hopefully these lessons from the last year, these books, and, foreshadowing what's to come with the process, hopefully the audience has enjoyed it. Yeah, well, Palmer, thank you so much for your time today. Great episode. Can't wait to see what's to come 2025. And I think that word's great. Growth. Just going to keep saying that. And yeah, 2025, we're growing. So that's the episode 6. Super excited for the guest this year. Super excited for the process. And yeah, I'm just so hyped up for what's to come. So that's the process, episode 6. Peace.